Hello subscribers and non-subscribers, and welcome back to Let's Play Victoria 2. So, in this part, we are going to be first rebuilding some of our military. We already rebuilt the army that we lost last part, but we're going to be building some more because we kind of need some more anyway. Get my timer started, and we're going to be needing to rebuild or reinforce rather one of our armies that we have currently stationed in Ireland because they lost some of their brigades as a result of the transports some of those brigades were on got sunk while we were trying to land on the British Isles. But beyond that, we are all good. We also are going to need to work to rebuild parts of our Navy. However, that shouldn't take very long. This one is the German Imperial Navy is almost done. Then we need to get the Austrian Imperial Navy up. But all of that should be done relatively soon. The reality is that should not take very long. How's the US doing in its war? You know, they're doing pretty good, but you know what, America? I'm going to go ahead and toss you some war subsidies because I want to make sure you win that war. You should win it with relative ease, realistically. I mean, Russia has 184 brigades, vast majority of which are probably mobilized troops. The UK has 125, again, most of which are probably mobilized troops. France is really the only big power that you have there to deal with, and they have 291 brigades, many of which are probably stationed in Europe and Africa. They probably don't have a whole hell of a lot that they currently have stationed anywhere in the Caribbean, North America, or anywhere. So, you know, that's not really going to be a big issue. Oh, really? Give me military access, Belgium. Kind of want to help you deal with, you know, this big Belgian communist uprising you currently have. Yep. Regional trade fair is open. Wonderful. Not that I really care, but still wonderful. Okay, so what do you need? You need 2 cavalry and 4 artillery. So 1, 2, and 1, 2, 3, 4. We seem to be having a bit of a hard time getting our hands on artillery, so I'm just going to go ahead and take full control of myself on stockpiling artillery. Or maybe that's not going to do anything because there just literally is a shortage of artillery. That indeed does seem to be the case, actually. Yes. Wow. Demand is 2,000, but the supply is only 387. That is, that's very low, actually. Wow. And we're trouncing France, who's in second place for artillery producers. Yeah, okay. It's going to take a while to get the artillery in particular. Some of this, I think, can probably be attributed to the whole Great War thing and me occupying large portions of the British Isles. So that's likely interfered to some degree with their ability to produce, because they were probably actually in second place. I don't know that for certain, that's just my guess. And Greece is not able to get those troops down here to Greece, so they're just gonna leave them stationed up there because reasons. I mean, you do you. Just want to make sure. Is all this stuff ready to go? They are, yes. Forts don't require artillery, if I recall correctly, so... I don't know why demand is so high for artillery right now. But that's not a bad thing. That's going to be quite a bit of money that comes in for us. Because we sell our artillery out on the open market right now at 52.3 pounds. Although demand has now dropped, so that all should start to go away. In fact, yes, our cruisers are just about done. Wonderful. All the cruisers have been built. I'll wait for them to arrive before I actually change our plans. You know, what do you even have over here out of curiosity, Ireland? Oh, well, you're not going to allow me to build. Oh, no, will you? No, you actually legitimately will not let me... Actually, it's not that you won't. It's just that you're at max factories, apparently. So, okay, never mind then. We'll just kind of leave you be, I guess. Let's go ahead and get our good friend Persia upgraded on the infrastructure, because that does benefit us. Anyone else want to go ahead and dump some infrastructure into? Not really. Yeah, not really. Let's go and check crises. I know when I tested this, the Philippines ended up being the next crisis spot, but that looks like it probably won't be the case. Looks like it'll be somewhere in Asia, or rather in China, or it'll be Duro again, or Doro. I don't know, I just call it Duro, screw it. So we'll see exactly how this whole crisis thing plays out, because we're going to have one. It's going to happen. It always does. It's just a question of where. Curiosity, how far ahead industrially am I? Quite a bit, about 1,500-ish points. Prestige-wise, about 1,000, and militarily, the U.S. is actually number 2 for military. But I'm like 3 times ahead of them. So, yeah, that ain't doing so great for them. And I have less brigades. But I assume it's because of more capital ships, or rather bigger and better capital ships. Also, I think a large portion of their military is probably conscripts. That probably doesn't help either. That's kind of fudging the numbers a little there. Again, the US should win that handedly. Their main issue is going to be crossing to get the war score, because yeah, they've occupied North America. Well, not quite. They haven't quite taken St. Pierre, and nor have they taken Belize or the Caribbean or the little bit in South America. Question is, are they going to attempt to land in Europe? Yes, they did. In fact, they already have. Huh. Wonder if you're going to do anything funky like liberate Scotland. I hope you don't. Scotland's mine, damn it. But I have no way of knowing. They might choose to go ahead and liberate Scotland, but I'm really hopeful they don't, because like I said, Scotland's mine, and I don't want to have to fight the US for Scotland. There we have conservatives in the upper house, because that's temporary when we gave them censored press over ruling party or whatever it's called, or rather state press only, rather. So we're, again, about 6 percentage points behind the Liberal Party, but we do at least have the ability of the whole... We always form a coalition with the Reactionary Party, and they more than make up for the difference. That reminds us, let's take a quick look at our our population. So, the only people who can vote are the aristocrats and capitalists, still correct? Yes. Okay. Now, let's make sure that we are putting loyalty of the Conservative Party, national focuses, in the right spot. So we have Nuremberg as the biggest of our primary culture group, who are the only ones allowed to vote. I just need to find Nuremberg. So there's Nuremberg. We do already have one there. We have Prague. Which we're also already doing. We have Munich. Which we're already doing. We have Sopron, which I believe we're also already doing. I think it's somewhere down here, isn't it? Yep. Now, I can probably make do with switching out one of these three encouragement for soldiers thing with a, Yeah, you know, I might do that. Do either of these already include Vienna? No. So the one in Sachsen there is going to not do that. Also, Vienna is Österreich. Or Österreich or whatever. So let's go ahead and do that. That, again, we kind of need to ensure conservative wins here because the Liberal Party is not useful for us in the slightest. Okay, switch down here. So you need 7 transports, and that looks to be it. Wonderful. Steam transports, of course. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I did give you all steam transports, correct? I didn't accidentally give you clippers, right? No? Okay, good. Just had to double check. I didn't want to find out that I accidentally gave the German Imperial Navy clippers, because I don't want clippers. They're not useful for us. They're really not. Upgrade our forts. Did I already? Yes, I did. You're not doing it because you were lacking the lumber by quite a bit, in fact. Is there anywhere I can get tons of lumber? Yes, there is. Well, rather, I can get tons of timber, which I can then turn into lumber. Out of curiosity, who makes a lot of lumber? Just general curiosity. Me. And I'm apparently not producing anywhere near enough lumber to be able to upgrade the naval base down there in Eretria. Sure, game. Whatever you say. Now, the U.S. needs to get the 6th Army off of the Isle of Man and onto the British mainland if they want it to do anything useful for the rest of their war. Mongolia is going to trounce the Chinese Empire, who apparently have only a single set of military strength. From what? From a capital ship. They don't even actually have a full point. The game's rounding up to a full point. They have 22 ships, a couple of which are capital ships, and by a couple of which it's probably only one. They have literally no military whatsoever to speak of. And somehow Mongolia is taking forever to win that war. With 11 brigades. I don't know what the hell's going on there. But, you know, they should be winning that much easier than they are. So, Spain wants me to support them in their thing with Portugal. I'm slightly more inclined to support Spain for the simple reason that they are not in anybody's sphere. Portugal is currently in the UK's sphere, so either way I'm going to have to deal with the UK again. I told you, we're probably going to have another great war potentially. We're going to go ahead and tell Spain you have our support. So we will be the defender in this. And Italy's actually going to be the one backing Oh yes, because Britain can't get involved because of the whole being at war thing, so they can't get involved in crises. So the only three countries that are great powers, well, no. Well, Japan could technically get involved. But they're in Asia, so they're not going to get involved. They were probably asked, maybe. But they probably said no, obviously. And they're probably not going to sit on the fence, so it really is just me and Italy. And Scandinavia is going to join. I don't even need Scandinavia's help, actually. I can do this on my own. It doesn't benefit me to have this go to a full-on war. That's the reality of the situation here. Italy has nothing I want, nor do I have the infamy to spare to try to take anything from Italy. If this was able to become a great war, then certainly, but that requires two great powers on both sides, and it's physically impossible to have two great powers on both sides in this. So you know what, Italy? I'll let you off easy. You give me you give us a white piece. I'll take some prestige. Spain will get some prestige. Italy and you and Portugal rather will lose some. Let's just go and end this, Italy. No reason to draw this out. And I can't influence Spain because we technically have a truce. Kind of forgot about that, to be honest. Yeah, like I said, France has probably had a lot of their troops primarily stationed in Europe, and that definitely seems to be the case. They kind of look like they're gearing up for war, to be completely honest, with the sheer number of troops they have stationed on this front. And you know what? I'm going to go ahead and build another army. Rather, another two armies. Just for the simple reason that I can, really. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Nope, I need 16. And 4 hussars. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Whoops. I said 4. Thank you very much, game. And 20 artillery. And now we just wait. We are at that point where the reality is nobody can challenge us, and we've been at this point really for a little while now. So this is probably a good point to go ahead and just give a quick reminder. I do have a link down in the description below to a Google form asking you all what country you would like to see me play as next time. Your choices are Russia, Two Sicilies, the Ottomans, Japan, China, Brazil, and I think that's it. There might be one other country that I'm forgetting, but I think that's it. As of the last time I looked at the results, which was a couple of days ago, or not a couple of days, actually, yes, it was a couple of days ago, I think, actually, as of when I'm recording this. Brazil has 9 votes, and Two Sicilies has 2 votes. Everybody else is at 0. So it's up to you all what you would like to see, obviously. So make sure to go ahead and check it out and pick what country you would like to see me play as. I will mention a couple things. So obviously if we play as Two Sicilies, we'll be working to form Italy. For Brazil doesn't have any real special events or anything to my knowledge. They can't form any countries or anything like that, at least in vanilla. I don't know about the historical project mod, but even there I don't think they can do anything particularly special. So my goal as Brazil will probably be just a nice, simple, unify South America type thing. And maybe, depending on how I'm feeling and the state of the world and whatnot, maybe we'll invade Portugal for the hell of it. For some reverse colonization. But again, I don't quite know. We'll see how that all works out if Brazil wins. But it's up to you all what you would like to see me play as. I did already do a short little test run, not a complete thing, just a little one, as Brazil, and that's definitely a very feasible playthrough. We need jingoism for our factions, though of course that does benefit the fascists as well. Yeah, the US kind of fucked that up over there. In fact, it's now back in the... Oh, this war is back in favor of the French, UK, and Russia. Yeah, I really should just call them the Entente, because they basically are. So, that war is back in favor of the Entente. Vienna, you're a lady. So let's see. The growth of our colonies is... We don't really have very many... We literally have a single colony and a satellite. Comprised of former colonies, but whatever. Has turned Vienna into a constantly expanding cultural and economic nave of an empire. Every day, with every passing hour, people from every conceivable corner of the world we have made ours arrive in our capital to court our ministers, to trade with merchants, engineers, and industrialists, and to experience any one of the multitude of fates that Vienna affords its visitors. Standing at Vienna Central, one can see all around oneself a small panorama of the world, hear spoken any and all of the varying tongues and languages of the world, and smell both the scents and the odors of faraway lands. In the annals of the German Empire, the year around 1914 will always be remembered as the golden age of Vienna. And may the memory live long. Don't know what triggered that. I didn't get that in my test run, I'm pretty certain. So I literally have no idea what triggered. Gained a little bit towards the conservative, but we did also gain a little bit towards the other guys. Other guys I'm not particularly big fans of, but whatever. We want protectionism, yes game. You know, I do think it's a little weird that we can get the upper house being rearranged in the middle of an election. It just seems weird. It really shouldn't work that way. Oh yes, that reminds me. Ireland, I need to make sure I get you up to 100 influence. Just so I can quickly react in the event that anybody, you know, tries to steal you from under me. I'm looking at Britain for that, although... Thing is, so the UK doesn't have any claims on Ireland in this game. Or cores, rather, on Ireland. In theory, they can get some, because we've gotten those events periodically throughout that give some. In this case, we want residency. So, yeah, in theory, it's a little surprising that the UK just failed to gain any cores on Ireland at all throughout this entire game. If I had liberated Scotland instead of Ireland, what would have ended up happening is the UK would have probably eventually declared war to try and retake Scotland. But because I decided to go for Ireland over Scotland, that's not going to be the case. We're going to go ahead and add Serbia to our sphere of influence. We're not going to have an assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand occur for the simple reason that, well, it's not going to happen. Also, wow, the Italians really have some big communist uprisings, and I don't think they can afford to take care of that. I can't see their number of troops here. Well... They're going to struggle to take care of that 51 stack up there. They can take care of these small ones with relative ease. Yes, we will attend the 6th Olympic Games. We literally have no reason not to attend. There are more downsides to not attending than there are to attending. And Boxer Atrocities. Again. So, the Righteous Society of Harmonious Fists, known colloquially as Boxers. I mean, we never read this event, but this is like the 5th time I think we've had it. Or at least it feels like that. We've had this for a while now. A Chinese movement dedicated to restoring what they perceive to be the loss of Chinese independence in face of European expansion in Asia, have carried out massacres on European missionaries and traders in China. Along with Europeans unfortunate enough to come in their path, several Chinese Christian converts have also been brutally slaughtered. The Chinese government appears unconcerned with these atrocities, and some rumors claim that the Imperial Qing government is even lending its tacit support to the movement. This is an outrage. So we could go to war with the Chinese. Literally no reason to. If I had the infamy, I might have done it just to take some land. But in this case, there's literally no reason to. I'm just gonna kind of let them fall apart as they very clearly already are. Also, I don't know who the... I see these Taiping nationalists, but I'm not quite sure who those are supposed to be, because the reality is well, one, they're occupying territory that there's no cores on. And those that do have cores for the Heavenly Kingdom, and maybe they're the same thing. It's just a weird thing where they're not called Heavenly Kingdom nationalists, and they're called Taiping nationalists. I guess we'll see. In one of my test runs, based off of not this last save that I loaded for this part, but the save prior to that, China did fall apart, and you ended up with the Shaanxi clique and the Heavenly Kingdom both breaking away, and China actually went fascist. And we're probably going to see that here as well. But we'll see how this all works out. But it's definitely going to be in our favor nonetheless. Ooh, where'd that 51 stat go? I'm assuming they're occupying more territory. I can't see them. Although I also don't see that territory that they were supposed to be on as being occupied. So I can only assume... Oh, god damn it, game, really? Okay, two Sicilies, you need help? Yes, wonderful, you'll give me military access. Wait, hold on a second. Oh, you're socialist. And you have communist uprisings, okay. For a second there I thought you were already communist and were having communist uprisings, because that would have made a whole hell of a lot of sense. Let's get the modern naval doctrine for the additional naval base. That'll allow us to be able to somewhat do a better job of rebuilding our... Or not rebuilding, but of expanding, rather, our military. There we go. Jesus, that took a while. We're going to go ahead and help out two Sicilies. I want to make sure that they succeed. It's very important that they succeed. Though they don't really need our help. But no reason not to help them. I'd rather gain a little bit of consciousness that allows us to potentially pass some more reforms. Because some of them might actually be worth passing. One, because passing them makes people vote in your favor a little. Or rather, it gives you a temporary increase in the upper house. Though, I don't recall off the top of my head which you need to be able to pass. It is also very interesting to see that the anarcho-liberals are 100% against good minimum wage. In fact, I think they're outright against literally any social reform that I can pass, which sounds a little weird, you know, when they're called anarcho-liberals, but then again, this is applying the American concept of conservative and liberal. And so that doesn't quite make sense. Obviously, you should be applying the European model. Oh. Where the hell did you come from? I don't know where you came from. I'm just going to go ahead and get rid of you, though, because I don't need you. Okay, Serbia's been added to our sphere. We cannot, however, get an alliance with Serbia because we own some of their core territories, and as a result, they just outright refuse. Literally anything. Some fascist uprisings on our satellite. Not much to really look at. We can just ignore it. It's not important. Got to make sure that our forts are as upgraded as physically possible, particularly those in the important territories such as our capital. Again, I'll take the consciousness, and there we go. You now have 10 of your artillery. So, 19th Army. There's our timer, just in perfect time. I'm going to go ahead and ship you off to the Belgian territories because we're going to go ahead and establish a front to very quickly be able to help the Belgians when our war inevitably kicks off yet again with the French, because of course we're going to have more wars with the French. It'd be weird if we didn't. And the US is now at minus 10% because Canada has been liberated, or, well, liberated in the sense that the UK has reoccupied all of the territory in Canada the US was previously occupying. Oh no, the US looks like they pieced out with Canada, or with the UK, and proceeded to take more of Canada. But they decided not to take the bits and pieces that would present a nice looking border. They instead decided to take the bits and pieces that give us this ugly piece of crap that we are looking at right now of American Canada. Thanks. I hate border gore. If the US keeps going to war with the UK though, eventually they'll get a nice border because they'll eventually take over all of Canada. But until then, we're going to have a hideous looking border there. I would have preferred if they took British Columbia, but they didn't. However, the US seems to be struggling to be able to actually fight. Probably the French is my guess. I don't know where they're trying to fight the French, but wherever it is, they're failing miserably at it. They will only start to succeed in the event that I were to go to war with the French, which the game is reluctant to give me a reason to go to war with the French. Quite literally, I'm not getting any events that say, hey, you want to go to war with the French? Well, basically boiled down to that at least. And so, we're stuck here, staring the French down from across the border. Not able to do anything about it. Because neither of us want to be the ones that start the next war. Mostly because France realizes they would lose. Let's be honest here, France probably realizes they will lose. So the AI refuses to start a war with me. But I don't have the infamy. I'm like literally constantly riding the line for most of this series. Or passing it, in fact, for most of it, really. On infamy. So I can't quite afford to go and justify a war against the French because that'll kick up my infamy. And I don't want to deal with that. So, okay, I need the game then to give me an event to go and beat the crap out of the French. But the game doesn't give me any events that give me a CB to be able to go and beat the crap out of the French. So we're kind of just leaving the French to sit here. Now the reality is, again, nobody can combat us. The biggest alliance in the world that exists in this save is France, Russia. Well, it depends on who starts the war, of course. If Russia starts it, then we have to deal with the UK and France, which we can deal with, while also dealing with Russia again. We can deal with that. We effectively did 2/3 of that in the Great War. And I can easily take care of France. Whether they're separately involved or not, I can take care of them. I prefer if they're involved, though, directly, just because, you know, gives me a great war, and I can take more land off of them that way. But nonetheless, so the reality of the situation is, nobody can combat us. Our military score is 1,300. The UK is at 300, France is at 400, so make that 700 total. Russia's at 500, so that's what? I suck at math off the top of my head. I should be able to do that, but again, I suck at math. Double check. Yeah, I was thinking around 1200, but I wasn't quite certain, so I didn't want to say anything. And so as a result, the reality is all of them together are just meeting us on military power. And it should be noted that large portions of their military power seem to actually be capital ships. Well, at least for France. I mean, their army does technically just beat out, but it's kind of close. The UK is still rebuilding and Russia's still rebuilding, although Russia seems to be saying, you know what, the Navy did jack shit for us during the Great War, let's just not bother with it. So if they're going to rebuild their Navy at all, it's going to be like at the very end. Although I guess they are technically just starting because they do have a ship. It's probably a transport. But they technically have a ship nonetheless. And so long as I stay below 25 infamy before the war starts, I'll have my good friends Scandinavia and Japan to back me up. And, you know, in theory, the US could potentially get involved as well. Probably not, but it's a possibility. I think the only reason they weren't literally the only reason they weren't allowed to previously was because of the whole, they were allied with the UK in a war against the Chinese, which is probably why China doesn't have a military to put down these rebellions. So, yeah. You know what? I could kick off World War II in 1917-ish would probably be when it would happen, depending on when I would start justifying a war if we go that route. And again, so long as I stay under 25 infamy, nobody will break their alliance with me, and I'll get my Great War. And that'll mean a lot of land I could take in theory. Of course, that'll shoot us up on infamy if I try to take a whole bunch, but, you know, who's going to stop us? Scandinavia doesn't have any friends. Russia's pissed at them, and the UK and France will also be pissed at them for helping me in wars against those two powers. And again, them and Russia just don't get along, period, anyway. Who are they going to ally with in terms of great powers? Italy? Italy's just barely a great power. And they're not a threat because they only own half of the Italian peninsula. So, you know what? We might do that. I'm going to probably test it first just to ensure that nothing's going to completely break, but we might go that route and just say screw it and justify a war to start. The Second Great War, probably around 1917, 1918-ish, and that'll be sort of just the last war to finish the series off. And we'll get our whole Russia, France, UK thing. I'll have to justify the war on Russia, though, if I want to fight all three. You know what? We'll probably do that, but we'll see. Plans for that will all have to wait until next part, so until then, a goodbye and farewell, and a quick reminder, I do have a link down in the description below to my Patreon. For as little as $1 a month, you get early access to all of my videos. That helps the channel out immensely. Even if it's only a handful of people doing it, it adds up over time. And especially, of course, as more and more people do it, it helps the channel more and more. This allows me to be able to cover the expenses of buying games, upgrading my hardware, buying software that allows me to do this. Although that's not really as much of a thing because I already have a version of Vegas that works fine for my needs. So yes, I also have affiliate links down there as well if you want to help the channel out that way and you don't own Vicky 2. Again, as I mentioned in the past when I've said this, Vicky 2 is a great game. It's rough around the edges, but it's a great game nonetheless. And down there I also have a link to my Discord if you wish to join it. It's not particularly active, I'll admit, but it's there, and it's the first place I go to post anything regarding channel happenings. So I highly advise joining it. Even if you don't plan to be active in it, I highly advise joining, just for the sole purpose of being able to be kept up to date on channel happenings as soon as I make the post, rather than what happens often, where or if you follow me at other places where I just don't end up posting it because I forget or whatever. But that'll be it for this part. Like I said, I'll see you all next time. But until then, a goodbye and farewell.